You know, right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in entertainment, comedy, sports, and so much more. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, our guest today, a very funny man. This guy grew up around a bunch of degenerates, most likely. Growing up in one casino, moves out. He's living in other casinos now. But he is a really talented guy. He's a class act. I got to see his act a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, and we are very excited to have him on here with us today.
Very excited to have him on. A little stand-up, little improv. He's had a residency now in Vegas for quite a while. He was very, very warm to you. Can't wait to go back to Vegas, hopefully one day soon. But he's very well known in the comedy world. We welcome Butch Bradley to the show. Butch,
thank you, guys.
A lot of laughs before this started. We're going to have a lot of laughs as this thing goes on. But how you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. It's another, it's funny. Vegas is strange because all the things that never happened to me before I lived here happen now. You forget what day it is, timelines. It's the same day. Like Vegas crushes, but when you live here off the strip, it's desert. You don't see green. You don't water. What? When it rains, I literally go outside and stand in it like one of those weird Sunday afternoon Hallmark movies and go, I believe in God. So, Vegas is good, man. And it's good to be on your podcast. It's great to be here.
Winner of the Best of Vegas 3 times, 3 years in a row. You were voted the best comic to watch by NPR, and you have some great reviews on TripAdvisor, which is I never seen a comic have TripAdvisor reviews before, but people must be taking trips just for you. Here's a review written in the peak of the pandemic, pretty much, or a little before the pandemic, really. January of 2020, someone wrote that you were one of the best local gems and you never disappoint. You will laugh from beginning to end, whether you're telling stories of your own personal adventures or doing crowd work. Not a bad seat in the house, and by the end of the show, you will know the audience personally and in some way feel like family as you have been on a great journey of laughter with them. You also take pictures with the fans after the show. So there's a great review that sums up. Butch, have you seen that review before?
No, I'm thankful for it. I used to dive into stuff, but when you dive in too much, it like messes your head up. This is really strange correlation, but thank you, Tom Cruise. That's the part of Scientology I like. I don't want to know. I'm not a Scientologist, but that's the part I keep, right? Like, you don't really want to know because as a comic, you already are doing so much. I mean, if you're a real comic and you're going to stage regularly and you're that's your life, you have to be cautious on what, critique you take because you got to get up every night. And a part of it is having bad sets. That's how you get better. You have to keep going up and getting better. So it's nice to hear. And I try and, produce. We all try and produce. And it's nice that someone got that. So, in the 5 years since that review, nothing. 5,000 shows. January 20th, Butch was a kind fella. I'll take it, though.
So you're not really in the know. You're not checking in, but I need to know when you wake up in the morning and you get your phone, what's the first app you're checking?
I Google Butch Bradley. No. you know what's funny? Tuesday, I shut the phone off. And then this is so fun because I was curious as how much social media affects me with all the reading you're reading about it. And my girl and I put on thunderstorms and rain on the Calm app at like 10:15. I can't ever sleep. But I was out by 10:30, slept the whole night. I woke up, I was like, wow. Because normally I'd be on, Instagram, you go Instagram, Facebook. I do all of the, I'll do CNN, BBC. I'll do like Israeli news, Western China news. I'll do NPR. And then I'll look throughout the world on what's going on. And then I'll piece together my own fake CIA brain on what's really happening. There was some snow on Mount Fuji, that must be the real truth. But I dive in a little, but have to. It's my job. You know what I mean? So you
Right.
have to. What do you dive into?
When I put my phone in the morning, the
Yeah.
first app that I open up is Threads. Why? Now, I don't click on it. My phone just automatically opens it up. It's spooky. I don't want anything to do with
Yeah.
Threads. I don't want the app. And I put my phone on and Threads is open. I never go in it. I never open it. So I don't know what Zuckerberg's doing, but for some reason he wants to push me to Threads.
Yeah. It'll, um, we receive text messages now, and I don't want to say her name because she's always listening in the house, the app.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid
Alexa,
to even
Siri, yeah.
spell her name. Who knows? She may respond.
Hey, Siri.
Yeah, right. Or the other one. And my girl received a text message about the house. I forget what it was exactly, but it's the first of that AI level we've ever experienced where we were just out and about and a text message said, "Did you blah, blah, blah?" And I'm like, wow, yeah, it's always listening. The phones are listening. I have a lot of friends who are from doing a lot of USO and military shows. A lot of my friends are, the bearded ones, the operators. And I always joke with them, what should I know? And they tell you, put your phone in a Faraday bag always, nonstop. So the phone can watch and can listen. I mean, there's a thing out there called Pegasus. Have you heard about that?
Maybe Joe has. I haven't.
Joe, have you heard of Pegasus? So they can access your phone, go through and download your complete phone, control it, watch you, and listen to you.
Remotely.
And disappear, but without a trace, which is you can only catch it to know if it's in your phone if you catch it. It was Israeli created tech company for great usage. I'm down with it, but now it's out in the hands of 40 other countries. But I know it was created for terrorism, but maybe they're peeking in on you, Nicholas.
The CIA is going to flag this episode. That's where we're headed.
Say it all times. I don't know.
I know.
Yeah. Where are you from, Joe? You from New York?
Nick and I are both from the same
He's a
place.
Brooklyn guy.
I was born in Brooklyn, but we both grew up on Staten Island.
I love Brooklyn. My first real experience.
Joe's the mayor of Chinatown and Little Italy as well.
Oh, very cool. So that's good. That gives me a little segue. So one of my greatest gigs and runs is in Hong Kong. Jamie Gong, who's lived in New York, Chinatown, used to be a major tour guide there. He actually carried the torch for the Olympics years ago.
2008, Beijing.
Maybe, but in the States, he was a big New Yorker, known throughout the city for tour guides in Chinatown. And follow him, Jamie Gong. And he opened Takeout Comedy in Hong Kong to bring comedy from the New York scene and, his Chinese background to China. And it's in Hong Kong. It's called Takeout Comedy, some of my greatest gigs. So maybe in your world, Joe, I thought maybe you might have bumped into Jamie.
No.
Well, Joe's usually too busy making sausage and peppers with Tony Danza.
Ooh, amazing. Do you really?
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Well,
who's the boss, Joe? It's you.
Who is the boss? So long story short, my father grew up down there. You run into people. He knew Tony, way before his career started.
One of the boys from the neighborhood.
I cannot recall the last time that Tony was around the neighborhood and that my father had seen him. But I did the San Gennaro feast. Now it's 10 years ago. It's a long, long time ago. I worked the feast a couple of times here and there through high school and a couple years in college. And one of those last years in college, I was down there. I stood by my father's 10 straight days, worked 10 straight days in the feast. And one of the days during the week, I think it was a Wednesday, Tony kind of showed up to where the old Eleva is. The Mulberry Street has really, really changed. But Tony showed up and he surprised everybody. And I was working the grill and he was like, "Kid, get the hell away from here." And we had a really good night. He was there for about 2 or 3 hours and we were serving sausage, peppers, and onions together. And he was doing promotional pics and he was with the girl he was dating at the time. Obviously, that has since ended. But this was a long time ago. I had seen him one other time after that. It was a couple of years later. He remembered me. So I don't know if he would to remember me now, but again, he kind of grew up with my father.
He might mix you up with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that is New York, the first time this is traveling the world, doing comedy, being blessed. But the first time I really felt America was in Brooklyn some years ago, like 2004, 5, or 6 or something.
Yeah.
I filmed Tony Rock Project, and he sent me into Bed-Stuy to film some episodes. But Brooklyn, the way it looks, I mean, I understood music, rap, art about the country more from going to Brooklyn than anything I've ever seen or witnessed. I did not know. I've been in New York a million times, but I'd never gone into the heart of Brooklyn, and just seeing like fashion created by a person, obviously from what's within their home, looking dope. The personalities, Brooklyn is like, it feels like the closest we could ever get to maybe the beginning of America, like the heart of where all the cultures are. It's amazing. So what a cool spot, man.
Brooklyn used to be a magical place, much like your hometown of Atlantic City. So what was it like growing up there? How did you end up, being in Atlantic City? I know your mom has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
How did Atlantic City stack up back in the day versus now, and your thoughts?
So when I was a little kid, my mom was a waitress at a place called Lou's Restaurant in Ventnor, New Jersey. Born in Atlantic City, 5th generation. My family used to swim the booze in for real to the beach to meet with, like the Capone crew and all. Like, it's anyone from Atlantic City somehow has a story where they're involved in generations, So, Atlantic City had fallen because it's gone up and down, many times, and it was fallen. But then in 1978, Atlantic City got approval for gaming. My mom worked at Lou's Restaurant. She was happy. 2 boys. My father's off doing his thing. Who knows where? If you guys see him, let him know. I don't want to talk. But my mom doing her thing. And then Resorts International was looking for people. And my Aunt Joan grabbed my mom and took her to Resorts and said, "You're working here." And she goes, I'm good. A girl in her young 20s. And she brought her in to Resorts, and the line was around the block. And I know you guys can appreciate this, because you can get into a restaurant in Brooklyn because you can whisper to somebody, "Oh, I know." So my aunt took my mom past you can look at the pictures, past 2,000 people to the front, knew the security guard, pulled her into the interview process. My mom reluctantly fills out all the applications, gets the job, is working at Resorts in the cage where they count the money with 3 other people. They bury them to their chest in money, and they'd wait till they count themselves out. And she said a trash can would go to the right with a guy in a suit out of the casino, and a trash can would go to the left into the casino. And there was a man in the hallway in a suit at the door, and they'd pour all the money in, and she'd count her way out. So she was in Resorts, became friends with the vice president's wife, Bunny Rogers, from Vegas. And we were little kids. And it's very New York. It's very East Coast. My mom would just bring us to the shows. She'd put my little brother Brian and I in the booth, and we'd watch Don Rickles, Shecky Green, Rodney Dangerfield. She'd let us stay up late. She let us watch SNL, and it just got in my blood. And I remember specifically, as perfect as day, looking out and seeing Rodney Dangerfield frozen in time, way younger, and the crowd moving, and it just stuck, this picture of the crowd moving. And I was like, I don't understand this, but I love it. And, so years later in comedy, I became friends with Rodney. I worked with him weekly at the Laugh Factory. He'd come into the Laugh Factory every Friday and Saturday night, and still to this day, the best sets I've ever seen. These TikTokers are delusional. Rodney would murder at 78, 79, 80. And I was honored to eventually get when he passed away, I was actually an usher in his funeral. So from a child to Atlantic City, through life, all the way out to, it was just, Atlantic City is just a special place. Like Brooklyn feels to hearing the both of you speak. It's that feeling, hopefully they bounce back, they go through cycles.
Listen, I think they could bounce back if they bring you in for a few shows.
Hey, I'd love it. I worked at Atlantic City for years and years, and that pandemic sort of wiped everybody, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Butch, I went during the pandemic to Tropicana. I guess I don't know what the comedy club is there.
It's not really a comedy club. Those
And
guys, yeah,
they were terrible.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
awful.
yeah. God bless them. They're young guys. You can't stay in your city, no matter what it. New York, you could. Chicago, you could. San Francisco, you kind of could. LA's hard, but it's not really. New York and Chicago are the only cities really you could stay in and develop and become a killer in comedy. But everywhere else, you have to leave. So Atlantic City, those guys are probably, they're only learning and growing off themselves, and they're not auditioning. You have to leave. I had to leave. I went to Boston. I started comedy, and I spent all that time as an open micer grinding under guys like Patrice, Burr, Dane. Billy Martin was the host, who ends up becoming the executive producer, head writer of the Bill Maher Show. So you have to audition, you have to fail, you have to be told no. Then I moved from Boston to Portland, Maine for more stage time under an incredible comic, Bob Marley, and Ollie, who owned the Comedy Connection at the Old Port, which was connected to Boston. You got to move and change. So Atlantic City, to have a comedy club is difficult, especially when you have Borgata and Hard Rock, which are the rooms I do, and they bring in murderers. And so it sort of stagnates that scene. If they're not going to New York, they know what's in New York. Killers, like the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I do the Cellar here. I work 7 nights a week. One of the only evenings that'll get my heart racing or rethinking, which I'm thankful for, is when I do the Cellar, because I'm with 4 murderers. I don't know who's going to be on. I was on last Thursday. I was with Alan Havey. The guy's got 1 million credits. I think he told me he was 70 years old. He's destroying. And then I'm like, you're with all these comedians, Julian and whoever pops in, Nick Griffin out of the Cellar. Like, these guys just come in. New Yorkers come in icy cold. You're like, how are you doing? Yeah. I'm like, oh boy, this guy's gonna be good. Dear Lord, the ones that yap, they don't. But you gotta do that process. So Atlantic City scene most likely is stagnated because, understandably, they're afraid to move. They're afraid to go to. You don't want to hear no, but I didn't have a choice. Real comics don't have a choice. You're screwed. You should go do real estate or be a lawyer or be a doctor or be amazing Italian cook in Brooklyn or whatever it is you're supposed to do. But with comedy, the real comics don't have a choice. So you're like, shit, I got to go to Chicago. I got to go to New York. I got to go back to New York. I was driving 12 hours round trip from Portland, Maine to Comic Strip in New York, pretending I lived there to go through the audition process under Lucian Hold with Tony Rock. And we grinded. And grinded. So that's why comics get stuck at certain levels, you just do. You're afraid. I get it. So,
Joe, can you tell Butch was passionate?
I love it. I love comedy history. I recently, my friends and I, we went to Austin, Texas a couple weekends ago. We went to the Mothership. We got to see Tim Dillon for a second time. He is outstanding.
Incredible.
The way that that particular theater, Nick, used to have a special purpose, which we don't have to talk about it here, but they basically they renovated the interior, and now it's a beautiful setup for comedy. It's a big time hotspot. Obviously, Joe Rogan moved to Austin, Texas, and it's becoming much bigger. But I want to bring up Rodney Dangerfield, backing up for a second, because to me he's the best ever. I still watch his sets on Johnny Carson. I'm a huge, my father used to own the VHS of the Dean Martin roast tape, so I'm like a huge fan of old school comedy. I love Rodney Dangerfield, but there's a rumor that in addition to everything that you mentioned, you've seen him naked. Is that true or not?
I have. I didn't see him you don't see him totally naked because that's a whole different experience, right? You're seeing an old school dude. So what's funny? I never really heard it out before, but because it's like in comedy, the green room is so matter of fact. You're so desensitized. Like, of course, if you work with Rodney, you saw his cock. But so the first
And
sighting.
he would joke about it being really, really small, which is why he's the best ever.
So yeah, and like literally, yeah, it's such a weird. So I'm at Tropicana Comedy Stop early in my career. I was so lucky to be a young headliner in Vegas because I was just surrounded by killers. I was soaked in sweat every night. Guys today don't totally get that because they pop, but you're just beaten up. So Rodney was across the street, and his wife Joan brought Rodney over with a comedian, Marty Belafsky, who was a friend of mine. You probably know Marty. He was a young child actor. He played Crutchy in Newsies. He's one of my closest long-term friends. He's now an executive at Sony. And it's just like that weird little Brooklyn, like who knows who weird world, and comedy's like that. So Rodney came to my show. It was incredible. I had a good set. I came off. He was so cool. He said, come over after my show to the green room. Went across the street to MGM. He had his own showroom. Carrot Top now has it. And I went through security one step at a time. But it's weird. I become like a 12-year-old kid, I'm like, Rodney said I could come by. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, work across the street. Huh? Oh, I'm comedian Butch Bradley. I'm headlining the Tropicana. You don't feel like that when you're seeing Rodney. You know what I mean? So I get through like 3 layers of security, and down the hall, I can see Rodney sitting on a couch. It looks like he's in a bathrobe, which is typical, but I haven't been this intimate with him. And I thought, oh shit, what am I doing? And I hear him go, who? Who's that? Who? And he goes, what's your name? I go, Rodney, it's Butch Bradley. He goes, oh. He goes, oh, don't get all fucking sensitive. I couldn't fucking hear your name. And he brings me in. He looks at me. He goes, oh, yeah. He's in his bathrobe. He's got like nothing underneath his bathrobe. He would steam after his shows. He sits me down to his right. Very odd. It's the only man I've ever been next to, just like balls out, like with the, and I kind of glanced when I first came in. And I thought, holy shit, he's like in a bathrobe. It's just him and I in a real green room, a real one. Lobster steak, unbelievable, stunning. Looks like you just cooked it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, whoa, okay. In comes Joan, Marty, some younger friends of his, some like girls in their late 20s, attractive girls, and they got a different angle. I see their face go, because they're looking straight in at the driveway to Rodney's goodness, And Rodney opens up a little medical vial. I don't smoke. I never smoked. Once in a blue moon, I never my thing. He pulls out a little mini pin joint out of a medical vial. He lights it. They're all talking. And Joan goes, would you like a cocktail? And I was like, oh, yeah. At the time, I drank. And I'm like, yeah, could I get like vodka's good? I thought maybe she was going to make me a cocktail. I was just so nervous. I was saying yes. He passes me this. He goes, oh, fucking Butchie, fucking try this shit. Try this. I didn't say I don't smoke. I can't believe I fell under Rodney peer pressure. I take a hit. He goes, yeah, fucking do more. I don't even smoke. And it looks so innocent, right? I hit it. Uh-oh. I pass it back. And then she hands me a warm glass of Absolute. I'll never forget this shit. I'm like, dude, I'm getting high like really, 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 really fast. I sip the warm vodka. I don't even care. I'm worried. Where am I headed right now? I'm high. Everyone's staring. His balls are out. I drink the Absolute. I don't even ask for water. I'm so bashful, but I'm choking to death and I'm getting really high. And he goes, hey, how the fuck? I don't know how much time went by. He goes, hey, his legs are like spread. He goes, hey, how the fuck? How do you feel? I go, Rodney, I am so high right now. I really can't talk. He starts laughing. He goes, good. That's why I got you high. I can't feel it anymore. I want to make sure they're not fucking ripping me off. Fucking crazy. So that was the first ball sighting. But I was lucky enough to do be one of the writers on the anniversary specials for Comedy Central. We brought him the whole crew up to Rodney, and Adam Carolla was going to interview Rodney. Rodney was in his effing bathrobe again. So I've had 3 ball sightings. That one, and Adam Carolla loved it. And but it was shocking because we have a crew. So there's like, and this today it wouldn't happen because somebody would have sued and went, he had his balls out and who knows. But and the third one, he was at his table. He invited us up to his home in Westwood where the elevator would open up into his home. It's really crazy. And his neighbor was Shaq. And he sat us at a table. And in the middle of the table was a giant sneaker. It makes no sense. But every time I'm around celebrities in their world, there's always shit that doesn't make sense to us. And I'm like, and I look at Marty, and Marty's like, just don't bring it up. And then Rodney goes, hey, babe, what the fuck is this thing who gave you this? And she goes, Shaquille O'Neal. And he goes, yeah, you believe this? The guy moves next door. I'm on the balcony, and he leans over, he takes his sneaker off, and he hands me a sneaker. And he goes, I'm a big fan. I walk inside, I go, what the fuck? Jones, somebody just gave me a fucking sneaker. And he doesn't know, but he's just sitting there naked. And we got to read some chapters of his biography, which was really crazy. He asked me to read. And as I'm reading, I realize I'm reading the story of a boy who grew up in a rough neighborhood in New York City. And I'm like, oh my God, this is his biography. And I glanced past the edge of the table and his balls are like, hello, remember me? So those are my balls, Rodney's Jules stories. Yeah. So that's a different form of the green room, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was amazing. Oh my God.
Well, thanks for letting me ramble there. It's good being with East Coasters because you guys just let me do the whole, you get off the train, you're like, this fucking guy talked to me the whole way on the train. I was trying to rest.
No. This is really good shit about all the people that you've been around. We want to get back to your career though, a little bit. We'll take you from the beginning. Beginning your comedy career as a founding member of the Boston Improv Troupe, right? And soon being
the id, yes.
And becoming the opening act for luminary comics such as the great Ray Romano, right?
Yeah.
So just talk about getting your start and early in your career.
Well, look, I had a normal world. I went to college. I didn't want to. I always wanted to go to Hollywood. Thank God I didn't. Because there's so much knowledge that you don't have, or there was no preparation. I mean, I improvised my entire career. It's like a single child, single mom working. You just do what you love and you figure it out. So I had my job. I managed nightclubs in Philadelphia and New Jersey. We had like 14 properties. I went to Richard Stockton University, close to home, because I didn't really want to go. My mom signed me up from high school to college. I got in, did my school. I was managing nightclubs by like my third year as a marketing major. It took me 5 years to get out of there, still owing them $600. I managed because I still just wanted to go. It didn't make sense to me. So I left that world, quit, moved to Connecticut. My mom opened Foxwoods years later in casino industry. She's a boss. Second part of her helping me. She was a boss at Foxwoods. I get a job bartending there. I start doing open mics in Boston. I start working my improv, taking classes in Mystic, Connecticut, and then going into Harvard Square, hanging out with Al Del Benny, Brett Duggan, Ben Jones, and working on a group called the ID. And we would work at the Cantab, which is an old blues club in Harvard Square. We got a huge following from Harvard and Berkeley. And these guys were originally from Emerson, the Swollen Monkeys. Al Del Benny was of Bobby Kelly and Dane Cook, which was Al and the Monkeys out of Boston. So it's a weird lineage, right? You see that weird comedy tree? So Dane Cook, Bobby Kelly, Al Del Benny, Dane pops, Bobby's popping, Al's popping, but he forms the group with us because that's what they were doing. They were doing Al and the Monkeys. We became the ID. Our guest spots were Patrice, Justin McKinney, Dane Cook. All of these major comedians who were in their growth years would improv with the ID. And then we gradually went on. Comedy Central gave us some good heat. We went our own directions, developed, and then I started doing the drive to New York, like I told you. And after about 8 months in New York and passing at the clubs with Tony Rock and Sherrod Small, those were like my brothers. And I went to LA, man, like hockey bag, studio apartment, literally laying on the most gross floor with a door that had no security and hearing crazy shit on Sycamore and Hollywood Boulevard, 18th Street gang out front. And I was on the floor, like in between tears, like, what have I fucking done with my life?
Was it a tough decision for you to leave, I guess, the security of your we'll say daytime, even though it's nighttime job, to go full time for comedy?
100%. You know, I just got to go to the Hollywood premiere of Reagan with my girl Carla. And ironically, we're staying at the Roosevelt Hotel, dressed to the nines. I was in the movie Reagan. They saw me in Vegas. I'm looking out of the Roosevelt Hotel with all the barricades, getting ready to go to the Chinese Theater for the opening. And there's Sycamore Avenue. And I thought, I was like, I had a weird, corny moment, but I was like, young Butch Bradley, you're a badass. Because I don't know how I did it. You know what I mean? I think like, I know it's what I do. It's what I have to do. It's what I love. It fulfills me. It also challenges me nonstop. I'll be learning till the day I die. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's always hard. That's why I have so much respect for comics. You know, anybody I read about, Joan Rivers, God, her stories are incredible. They inspire me because she'd go all the way up and all the way down, all the way up and all the way down. So yeah, what's harder though for me would have been settling, getting married, and not being happy. I would never have been fulfilled if I didn't answer the question.
Right.
So it looks like in my case, I'll live a life where I don't totally have the answers to all the questions, but I feel more fulfilled in this direction, and it's all paid off.
So
and
how much of a grind was it coming up and touring for comedy? Now you're in one spot, so it's got to be a little easier. You go home every night, but when you're touring, and people, a lot of the comedians make their money touring, constantly traveling, which is rough. And also talk to us about the different cities and if you have to adjust your routine at all. If you're up north versus down south and your stuff land and how it comes all about, during all those lonely hours in the car or on the plane.
I toured for like 14 plus years. So only the last 5 was I blessed with the residencies to settle. Like that was crazy. We'll get into it. Absolutely thrilling, pumped. The first time you feature, what the fuck? And then you feature and you do well in the headliners. You feel you stagger the headliner. You don't even mean to. You stagger them, and you're like, whoa, he's having a hard time. Am I in trouble or am I in a good location? And then all of a sudden the first time you headline soaked in sweat. I was lucky because the Atlantic City owner of the Comedy Stop, which was a premier club where Rosie O'Donnell, Ray Romano, Louis Black, all these murderers would do Atlantic City in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I started to work amongst the next phase of the groups in those clubs. 14 shows a week, 7 days. You're getting good or you're fired. You're usually fired by Tuesday morning. It's just you're called to your room. Hey, we have your check up to this point. Sorry, your flight's arranged. Thank you. Goodbye. That's how it works. It doesn't work that way so much today, but touring was so exciting and thrilling, and you do adjust. I'm improvisationally based. I have sets I can write. Doing TV, I can write for any scenario. But my improvisational background helps me go into a local town or city and soak it up for a good couple hours, get a little foundation, throw it out, hear where the hits are, make them a part of something for the first 3 or 4 minutes. By the time I get to Thursday or Friday, those are polished. And everyone's like, he's talking about Nick's Pizza Parlor. Oh my God. You know what I mean? He knows Joe did sausage with what's his face. Like, how does he, so I get those rocking, and then I would lean them in those years to whatever my funniest thing was. But I loved it. I toured, and then I was 12 years in Hollywood, and I just felt I was past all the clubs within about a year, which is crazy. Comedy Magic Club, hardest club in the country to become a regular in. The Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, and the Improv. I did the Martin Short show. Bud Friedman saw me. I called and left a message. This is like shit people don't do when they're like going for their thing. I don't know if I would have done it today, but young Butch Bradley did. I just was like, hi, my name's Butch. I'm on the Martin Short show tomorrow. If someone could watch it, I would love to someday work at the Improv. And I hung up like, what did you just fucking do? I do the Martin Short show in like 01, 02, way before I should have. They just thought I was funny. And I called the next day, and someone answered and was like, yep, Mr. Bud Friedman saw you. And he said to tell you you're passed. You're a regular, and you can call him for spots. I literally still can't believe I heard that shit. But touring's exciting back then. And you go. And then 12 years, started to figure I got to change my trajectory. I don't want to be like sitting out in front of the frat house after graduating years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I broke into Asia. I was doing Hong Kong, Singapore, mainland China, Malaysia, and I started to grow a new level. I would go to New York. I'd go to like, oh my God, my head. I'd go to, I filmed, I'd go in and out of New York, and then I'd go all over Asia and tour, and it just started to change me. It gave me international awareness, the traveling on top of the American travel, because I traveled to all the states, to all the clubs, probably hundreds of times. You know what I mean? I don't even know. And then Asia, I started to build a name for myself. And then I ended up with a residency in Shanghai, China, as the first American stand-up to live and work there. And I lived there.
Wow.
And I had, it was mind blowing. It was incredible.
You were doing shows for American speaking audience?
I was doing it so here's where this residency is different. My audience was 40% Chinese youth, say like 18 to like 30. They all speak English as well, or if not better than you and I. So
right, they learn it at 4 or 5 years old.
And if you are hip in China as they are in Shanghai, like you are in New York, what's going on that's weird and cool that we can see? I hear there's an American comedian here speaking. So they would load up the shows, come watch, and I just couldn't believe it was so cool because they'd stand up and take pictures. They turn around and take pictures of just me and them and sit politely. And I was like, what's happening? And people are like, well, Americans, we talk about emotion. We talk about bad days. We talk about a lot of things that in Asian cultures, they don't discuss openly. Yeah. And it was really cool. I had a lot of great moments, and it was time to leave there. I did like 10 months. I ended up leaving there, going back to New York, working in and out of New York City to just polish up and learn. I was really, really fried. And I felt the road all those years, and started going to the gym, working out. And I wrote a list opposite of Butch Bradley, and I started doing the opposite. Back to the gym, no booze, no nothing. Get up early, Dunkin' Donuts coffee in Bergen, staring at New York, going, "I'm coming back."
Joe's got his coffee with him right now.
Yeah,
it's not Dunkin' Donuts. It's another local place. It's called Country Donuts. But I want to bring up your time living in California, because Nick and I have a very close, near and dear friend to our hearts. His name is Mike Marino. You've gotten the opportunity to do shows with him. I knew you were going to like that, but I want to bring up something specific, because Mike would always bring up the Comedy Store, and if you bring up the Comedy Store, you got to bring up the great Mitzi, right? I want to know how many tries, how many takes did it take for you personally to win over Mitzi and become a regular at the store, and talk about like doing shows with Mike. Because again, he's a great friend of ours. He's introduced us to a lot of people. Incredibly funny himself. Feels like you two would get along. Yeah, so talk about that for a little bit.
I'll touch on Mike first, which the coolest weird thing ever. I land in Bosnia or Kosovo. I can't remember, on a USO show. I'm with another comedian, Mike. We work at the Laugh Factory. We don't know each other that well. We land, we're walking. I'm like, this guy just reminds me of Jersey so much, right? He's just so Jersey, right? And then I'm like, are you from New Jersey? And he's like, yeah. And we were just sitting, we're talking, and he would sell these mini baseball bats, right? That said Mike Marino. I forget what it said.
Nice.
And he brought like a bag of like 400 of these bats through the military. I'm like, how the fuck did they let you get that shit in? But and we just became boys. We did Bosnia and Kosovo, and it was very dangerous. Believe it or not, those trips were very, very dangerous. We traveled with like 12 armed bodyguards. It was really crazy. We were protected in our hotels because they wanted to kill Americans. What's new? But we bonded up tight. We've been buddies, close buddies ever since. Now, Mitzi, I grinded, I worked, just so people don't think, to really answer your question truly, I'll give you details I lived on Sycamore in Hollywood. I was told I'd never get into any of these clubs by people that I was friends with who shall remain nameless. They drove me and said, you'll never work there. You'll never work there. And I went, then why the F are we here? In my mind, I thought, I can't listen to them. I walked from.
Wow, what a time for him to drop off the call.
Right.
Paul must have died.
Damn it.
Goes! Butch has lost his cell phone service and he's gone.
So is it me or is it him?
Always last when talking with these comedians.
Working, I'm so hoping.
Well, I can't say we've ever had an intermission before in our podcast, but there's a first very thing as Butch's phone goes out twice. I'm afraid to ask him to turn it sideways because it'll probably knock him off again.
That's what I'm afraid to do.
Yeah, let's keep it as is. But Butch is back finally after a nice break. And speaking of breaks, I need to know who has the best green room in Las Vegas and the best buffet in Las Vegas.
So green rooms, that's a good one because we compare these. I mean, Brad Garrett, he's had two. No, he's had three his green rooms are always exceptional. And when you walk into Brad's, I mean, not only does Brad make you feel like you're the celebrity, but when you walk down the hallway to the green room door, it's covered in really incredible pictures of his history. I mean, Sinatra and artists and pictures of comedians and it's incredible. The walk, like you're sort of reminded that you're a stand-up comic. Maybe we kind of resist putting that in our heads. And you just go knock it out, but you feel pretty cool going into Brad Garrett's green room, and it's a special place. Kimmel's is pretty nice too.
I was in there with you.
Yeah, right. LA Comedy Club is real chill, and the Comedy Store's green rooms are cool because they're so iconic. Like you see them, and you're like, there's this one table there where, I mean, I've sat there with Chappelle, I've sat there with Bobby Lee, Ken, all of that green room. And then you see it through the history and you're like, wow, how dope. Like that green room's it's never changed. It's exactly as it was. So, there's some goodies. Chicago Zanies has an iconic one from the Downtown Club, and then Roosevelt, the one in Roosevelt. Wait, Rosemont Chicago's Amy's Rosemont. That green room is cool. Really, the wall is covered with vinyls, pristine comedy vinyls all the way around. It's pretty beautiful. It's a beautiful room. And there's some others, but those are definitely my top, you know. But yeah, to answer Joe's question, if he's still with us, is he gone?
Oh, I'm right here. Go ahead.
For you,
Thank you.
when I got into Hollywood, I was in my bowling shirt, my blue jeans. Every moment was so crazy. I was so starving. I paid rent for 2 months. Rent was only $450 a month for my studio, which literally my friend's wife still teases me about how horrible it was. Like, she wanted to rescue me. Like, so I would leave there with my maybe, I really probably only had, who knows how little I had in the bank. And I would walk from Sycamore in Hollywood to I'm not complaining, universe, if you're listening. And I would walk. Everyone thought I was crazy for walking, but East Coasters, I'm like, the gangbanger knows I'm not buying drugs. You know, the pimp knows I'm not here for him. Like, I walked where they told me not to every day to the Laugh Factory, up and back, up and back. I would go to the shows. I would wait. I'd bang on the door. I'd bang on the door because I wasn't a past regular. There's a line around the block. And the doorman at the time, Kenny, jacked black dude, cool as hell. He's on Storage Wars now. So I love the lineage. I love it's like so East Coasty. You know my cousin Tina. So Kenny is on Storage Wars now because I feel like you'll go back and look it up. He's the door guy. I bang. He waves me off. I turned. I walked back past the line to the corner, and I stopped and I went, if I don't go back, I'm never going to go back ever. I'm never going to do this. I turned, banged on the door, and he was like, you, like side door. I'm like, oh my God, this dude's going to hit me. I go all the way to the side door on Hollywood Boulevard, or what is it? Sunset and Laurel. And he opens it. He's like, what is your problem? And Jamie Masada, the owner, is behind him. And I go, I met Jamie Masada like 4 months ago. I did a guest spot with Bob Marley, and he said I could come back if I really moved to Hollywood. He'd give me, and Jamie Masada's like, whoa, body. And he's laughing. And he waved Kenny off. He goes, come in, Body. He goes, Body, you fucking crazy. You're fucking crazy. I fucking like you. He's like, you're Bob Marley's friend, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you're fucking crazy. He told me you're fucking crazy. He goes, I put you up tonight. We fucking see what you got. And I was like, oh my God. I went upstairs. I did a set for him. And then he made me come back traditionally on a Tuesday on an open mic night. There's no one there. People wait in line all day. So you're up in front of, God bless them, the guy with the voices in his head. Everybody you've seen in a park in New York is there. Plus 2 people with dreams. No one's in the audience. I picked the microphone up. I went to the edge of the stage. I did my set directly to Jamie Masada, a little bit angry. I did my set. I was it was really like me just talking to you, you know. And I went, thank you so much. I put it back, and I'm like, well, that's over. And he waved me over. Badi, come here. He had like this VIP booth. It's still there with a big light above him. And he was like, Buddy, you're good. You call in. You're crazy, buddy. Calm down, buddy. Calm down. You're crazy. And I was like, okay. And I got my spots, but I walked every single night, whether I was booked or not, at 7:40 and waited, went in, sat 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight. And I memorized the celebrities that would show up late. And I'd come earlier, and I would tell the manager, hey, Nick, if you're in a jam, hey, Butch, I got you, because I was so new. They don't know me. Hey, Nick, not bothering you. I'm here if you need someone to kill time. Hey, Butch, thank you so much, bud. I think you got your schedule for the week. Thank you. I knew, though, who would show up late. And they'd come over and be like, hey, Butch, go up next, kill time. And I get 8 minutes, 9 minutes, plus my spots, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. And then everyone got comfortable with me. And I started to get comfortable and settle in. I started to bang it. And I was also with guys like Dane Cook, who was just launching, Ralphie May, Bobby Lee, Tony Rock. Everybody was showing up. It was all celebrities. So every night I'm grinding and working, I'm getting beat up. But I'm just like, fuck it. And I kept walking up and back and up and back. And Tony Rock ends up moving there like 6 months after me, which gave me a buddy. And me, him, and Ruben Paul, who hosts the biggest night in Hollywood right now called Ruby Tuesdays. He tours with George Lopez and Russell Peters. And we'd hang out every night. And Tony even lived with me in my studio for like 7 months. And we were broke. And Chris Rock picked us up in front of that shithole place one time and goes and stopped and took his sunglasses off. And he was laughing so hard at us. He's like, wait. He's like, I'm sorry. He goes, we would rent a room at the Comedy Hotel up the street by where Janis Joplin died. It's so crazy, but you got to hear these details. Him and 10 comics would put their money in, rent the room, sneak in, get up at 8 a.m., and they'd run to McDonald's 99 cents breakfast at 8 a.m. So he shared that story in front of 1764 Sycamore in the road of the grind. But every night, Tony wouldn't take any helpings from Chris. I was begging him to. I was like, please. We had no vehicle, and we did it. We'd walk to the Improv and the Comedy Store. We became past regulars, so all three. And everybody thought we were crazy. And we do Chocolate Sundays, Latino Night, Asian Invasion, all these crazy shows. Just grind them out. And it just started grinding and popping and grinding. But every single gig was hard. Being passed was unbelievable. Mitzi Shore, yes, of course. I got no. And you're up in front of no one. And Mitzi's in the back with somebody. And there's this neon light to the left above a piano. If the neon light flickers, rumor has it she takes that as a sign not to pass you. So while you're in front of 7 people, Mitzi Shore, soaked in sweat, doing most likely the shittiest material you'll ever use to audition for in your entire career, and hope that she just sees something, waiting for the fucking neon light not to flicker, getting through your time, coming off, no response, if any. That's how you audition. That's how all casting calls are, everything. They stare at you and come off. And I'm like, oh my God, she's leaving after me. So the other people aren't even going to be seen. And I got passed. And I was told by Tommy and her. Tommy was the guy at the time. There's always somebody, right? I was in the Tommy period. And actually, John Caparulo, who was at Kimmel's the other night, who was a doorman at the store, reminded me we both got passed the same night. And it's brutal. And then even after you're passed, Joe, you're still broke. So you're going for your 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. You're not really a booked comedian yet out on the road. I had Atlantic City and Vegas. So I was building on that and I went from like 2 weeks a year to like 10 weeks a year. You figure like $2K a week. I was rich considered to most guys, but we would wait for 2 to 3 weeks for the Laugh Factory checks to come out. And I'm Butch Bradley. I remember always seeing the Bob Saget, because Bob was under Bob. And Bob Saget had 280 checks. And I kept thinking, I got to change my fucking name and just get those checks. Because I would be getting a check for like 150, 175. But that check would carry me and keep me alive. And all 30 days I would spend trying to come up with 450 and then come up with food and all the rest. But you did it, man. I don't know how I did it, like I said earlier. But Today seems way easier when I'm working 7 days at premier locations. I'm tired. I go up, I do my thing. And by the way,
What, you
another,
drive now to work and do you get free parking?
I get special parking. I have my car. I open the front door. My Dobermans greet me. I give them love. My girl, a lot of things that you take for granted in life are really fuel. And this weekend, this past weekend, to come around about the Comedy Store, who do I spend? I spend Sunday and Monday with in my green room. Pauly Shore comes in to see me. So
Wow.
to your question,
Yeah.
and I'm going to send you guys the picture from Sunday, Monday. So if like those people don't think the universe works, Pauly Shore is just laying on the couch in the green room, and all the people at LA Comedy Club are like, Pauly Shore's in there with David Lucas from Kill Tony, and they're here to see you, and I'm like, cool. Like to me, it's cool and it's a nice thing, but I forget. The whole staff's like, oh my, oh, you know. But after Hollywood, I forget. But I go in. Paulie's got his dog, Buster. His dog jumps on me, gives me a hug. David introduces himself. There's another young comic named Jarrett there. Nick Guerrera's there. Headliner's done really well for himself. Comedy Central and HBO, and the whole green room. And what does it look like? It looks like the Comedy Store, and it's really crazy because I said that to the owner, Matt Chavez. Because Matt Chavez's dream with Joaquin was to open the LA Comedy Club like the Comedy Store. So it all came around. I said, "Hey, buddy, congrats." He goes, "Why?" I go, "Well, Pauly Shore's hanging out doing spots on my show in a room that feels like the Comedy Store. So your dream came true. My dreams are coming true. So it just comes around. But you'll never get to experience that or the green room if you stop doing whatever it is you want to do.
Got to keep working, got to keep grinding. So I have a question. Landing your role in the film Reagan recently, what do you think the biggest differences are between doing like traditional stand-up and doing comedy for the purposes of acting, whether it's like television or film?
The differences are it's the wisdom in your listening ability and learning and taking note. So, maybe I'm closing and I'm the guy and I have to make decisions. But when I'm on a place like they saw me improv, I had Sean McNamara, the director of Soul Surfer, and Reagan with Todd Fisher, Carrie Fisher's brother from Star Wars. I love the connections. It's just like so East Coast shit. And so they're in the old LA Comedy Club right at the end of that pandemic. And they were with a buddy of mine, Eric Audet, who was in a movie based on his life called 7 Years in Pakistan. It's all these weird connections, man. And I knew him from playing poker at his house in Hollywood, right? And he loved my improvisation. They're in Vegas doing a story on Doyle Bronson, the poker player, a documentary on him. They came to my show because my friend Eric said, you should see this guy improv. They came, 30 people in the room. I don't know they're there. I'm in the back having a meltdown alone going, I should have got a day job. I should have gotten a day job. This is so hard. This is also right before the Strat dumps 250 million into the casino, and the LA Comedy Club shows me their brand new $3 million room. I'm in the grimiest, dirtiest, hardworking comedy room there is, and there's only like 37 people. I'm like, I told myself to calm down, to have fun, get loose. Gave myself the talk. I went out, had a crazy fun set, and I look and I go, oh my God, that's industry. They look like industry. They feel like industry. And then I see my buddy Eric, and I go, oh my God, they're fucking industry. So I go by the curtain, and I really reluctantly put my ear up to the curtain, and I heard the bigger guy, Sean McNamara, later I find out, the director goes, that guy's improvisation is insane. And I stuck my head through the curtain and I go, That's wonderful to hear. And they turned and they all started laughing. And I went out and I go, I can't tell you how frightened I was to hear what you were going to say. And he goes, you're incredible. What do you need? And I remembered I've never asked. And I said, I need a special. I need TV and movies, man. It's what I live for. He goes, you got the special. And Todd Fisher goes, oh, the special is easy. And he goes, no problem. You're great. We talked. And next morning, and I'll say this to the universe and to anyone out there listening, I had quit drinking like that year. So I was able to be at a 9 a.m. meeting and be sharp at Aria with all these monsters in coffee, like, hey, what's up? Good morning. I didn't miss it. I didn't fuck it up. I wasn't half in the game. And I got my special. And then he had me over the next year or so improv dialogue for the movie Reagan. And then all of a sudden, I'm in Oklahoma. I have all my lines memorized. And right before Dennis Quaid walks in, I'm dressed up. There's 150 people. It's 1950. It's supposed to be the Frontier Casino in Vegas where Ronald Reagan performed. There's a biographer on the stage making sure it's identical. And he takes my lines, and Sean's like 6'4" Irish guy. He goes, oh, you don't need these. I go, hey, Sean, what do you mean? I'm so thankful. I have my lines memorized. What do you mean? He goes, oh, no, not with your improvisation. He goes, you and Dennis are going to riff all of this. I'm like, wow. My heart, yeah, that face, Joe, heart's pounding. And I did the whole stand-up game. I went, calm down. You're a stand-up. If anyone could pull this shit off, you could. You're a stand-up comedian. And if Dennis is cool, you got this. That's what I said to myself. And I look out across this amazing, like, 1950 scene with the crane looking down on me with the camera. I have goosebumps. It was crazy. And Dennis Quaid comes walking in, and he yells to me. He goes, hey, Butch. I'm like, holy shit. I wave. He goes, can you believe they didn't give us 2 weeks to rehearse? And I go, right? And he works the whole room. He comes up the steps. He's greeted. He leans into me and he puts his fist out and he goes, do we got this? I go, I'm going to throw you softballs. We got this. And he pounded out. And then they were like, Pabst Blue Ribbon commercial. You two go. Okay, we need a cigarette commercial. Okay, Butch, we need you to work the crowd. Butch, we need this. 2 hours, and I'm thankful for what I got. I was hoping for like 12 minutes. Who knows? But out of it, I was very blessed to have those scenes that they liked something, and I ended up in the movie, and it's put me up for 3 major projects coming 2025 that, to the universe, hopefully it occurs, but it was magical stuff. But I had to listen. I had to like just listen, learn, go slow, hope that what I've learned to this point would work. I believed in it. And then I was like, fuck it. You got this. Go. Just like the walk down Sunset, just like hoping for the check, just go. The check will be there.
Here's the thing, Butch. You can make anybody laugh. You also have a hidden talent where you can make people pee themselves. Your good friend Tiffany Haddish, she, of course, you said you always make her laugh. And when she was homeless and sad and found nothing funny, you always found a way to make her pee on herself a little bit. And she was just laughing so hard at you. And also Brad Garrett, he really fears you. He watched you headline his club. He realized that he doesn't want to follow you. And you're truly a comedic force. He really fears the Irish from you. So what does it mean? I mean, to have that high praise from those two, plus all the other people. I mean, we've had people come on our podcast show that have name dropped, but Butch has taken it to the whole nother level here. Butch knows everybody. He's Mr. Hollywood.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like if you grew up in the neighborhood and you just keep working hard, that's all.
Yeah.
What I take from it is, and I said this to Carla, I was like, because Paulie was there and all this, the young David Lucas comedian popping on Kill Tony and this Todd Royce and all these people and and Russell Peters was in town. I was with him. Those are like the people. The wonderful thing about that is it just tells me, keep going to stage, keep going, keep grinding it. I'm blessed. Stay humble. I mean, they're all killers. So I guess whatever is I'm doing well that I'm proud of is I get to be in the green room with these type of people.
Yeah.
And the green room's that special little perk. And it's like walking down a street in Brooklyn and going into, a little store and someone goes, hey, Nick, how's your family doing? Like, it's the
Yeah.
same beautiful feeling because, and that's
And what
my
I like
road.
about you, Butch, is, you are not a standoffish guy like I'm too big for you. You're talking to the young comedians, you're giving them advice, you're being a sounding board. And I think that's the way you should go about the business of entertainment, which is being open to talking to everybody, not being afraid that they're coming for your position.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure they should be trying, but and the East Coaster in me wants to create those connections at all. And you should work hard to find your own spot. And sometimes that occasionally moves people,
Right.
but there, but like, there's no you, there's no me. It took me a while to realize when I go to an audition, if they want Joe, they want Joe,
Right. Nothing you
so
can do
you
about it.
just do your thing. But,
You have to submit my headshot to people who are looking for Jimmy Kimmel doppelgangers.
for
If they do a
real.
Jimmy Kimmel movie, Joe, I don't see how
Right.
you and Adam Carolla aren't doing the acting.
I really thought you guys were playing around with AI and you just put like Jimmy's face on until Joe touched his cheeks. I'm like, all right, this is real.
What
You
what
know,
do you think? Should we ask Joe? Should we ask Butch if I look like any celebrities?
Yeah, absolutely. He gets
yeah,
Usually
Nick.
we get a few
he
saying
looks
come
like the skateboarder, the famous
go
skateboarder,
Tony Hawk.
Tony
Tony
Hawk.
Hawk.
That's
Yeah.
a first. Usually
I
I
see it.
get I get
There's a
I
resemblance.
I guess the hat. Usually I get Daniel Tosh or I
Oh,
get
I
Rob
see it. I
Gronkowski.
see it. I see it. Yeah, I see it. But yeah, I mean, you guys both get better than I get anybody with freckles that look swollen and red. You know, I look like every
Little,
DUI photo ever taken.
you look like you've been passed for Conan O'Brien.
When originally I looked more like longer hair. I had the honor of meeting, like hanging out with Conan a little bit, but he's 6'6".
He's
He's
tall.
tall.
Yeah, and his freckles are like the size of my nose. Like
Yeah.
a freckled person will look at freckles. I'm like, this dude's freckles are crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, yeah, we look similar. The freckles, the Irish, and the genetic breakdown as America filled in the Irish that stayed.
Yeah. So, Butch, in your life or your career, what would you say is your I'm right moment? What I mean by that, it's a time or place where you wanted to pursue something. You asked somebody for advice, and they said, Butch, like, what are you crazy? Why are you going to try that? You're going to fail. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to try it anyway. And in the end, you will see why it is that I'm right about this. And I can tell you, I told you so.
Dude, that's my entire life and career. I mean, there was only a very few people when you tell them, the day you're at your job and you're dressed in your, my, Brooks Brothers suit, saying yes sir, no sir, and doing turn-ins and counting, 14 waitresses turn-ins and, seven bartenders and waiting for last call and checking on everyone. And Tina called out sick and registers down. And I was buying drinks for my college professors my junior year. So at my clubs.
Yeah.
So when that moment that I dove on to going to stand up, my childhood best friend, Mike Chofi, said, I like whispered, I was like, this is what I want to do. And he made me make a promise. And it's the only promise they ever made me make. He said, just don't quit. Swear you'll never quit. And you can do it. I was like, man, in my head, I thought, oh, I said, I promise I'll never quit. And that is the best thing I ever did was follow, what my calling was. And if it had changed or, if I didn't feel it or, I would have still felt satisfied. But for me, it's much different type of calling than people who are experimenting. This is like my life. and it was the best thing I did that meets what your question is this is it. I'm doing it. I mean, I had a lot of friends that thought I was effing nuts because we grew up in New York or New Jersey. We both, all three of us, have family members funnier than the top 30 comedians in the country.
Yes.
So a lot of those people who were doubters, yeah, it's pretty amazing watching them buy tickets to see me at a sold out Hard Rock show in Atlantic City, but they're humbly like hugging me. East Coasters just don't over celebrate whatever it is you're doing. They don't want you necessarily to leave the block.
Yeah.
So yeah, the best thing I ever did was to not question the calling and go, to do stand up.
Well, Butch, hopefully we're in Vegas again sometime soon. Nick and I love that place. He was there earlier.
Get out here.
Got to meet you.
Get out here, bud.
I have family out there. It's in Summerlin, but we really, really enjoyed this. It went long, but it was great. Great comedy snapshot, comedy history. Butch Bradley, name dropping everybody but the Sundance Kid. But we appreciate your time.
The Sundance Kid and I remember. No.
We'll get to that another time. But Butch, we
Thanks for
appreciate
having
your time.
me, guys.
You got it. We always give our guests the last words, and you said a lot. But if there's anything else you would like to share,
maybe a comedy special in the future.
Yes, we got a comedy special.
Where can we find Butch on each day of the week?
Yep.
Hit me on Instagram, Butch Bradley Comedy. And then this year, I'm not going to mention the projects. I hope they work out. You never know. But I'm in Vegas. I have a dual residency at LA Comedy Club Kimmel's. You can catch me at the Stellar, Brad Garrett's, or the Laugh Factory. And thank you for having me. And, awesome. You guys are wonderful. Have a great day. Eat something from New York for me, please. That's my.
I'm gonna order pizza.
I'm gonna have some pasta right now. This has been great, Butch. Thank you so much for your time. If you ever come in and do a show at the East Coast, we're gonna be there. Maybe we'll be the opening act for the opener. And this is do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right for our very special guest, Butch Bradley, my co-host Joe Calabrese. I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.